Thank you for joining us. This is the TAD Health webinar getting started with the CYBHI Multi-Payer Fee Schedule. We're excited to have you here for today's session where we'll walk you through the essential steps to help your district activate CYBHI reimbursement. Whether you're just starting out or getting a better look to fine-tune your approach, our goal is to give you practical guidance on alignment services, navigating the fee schedule, and working with both Medi-Cal and commercial payers. We're glad you're here and we're looking forward to diving in together. So just to give everyone a brief overview of what today's session will entail, we're going to be discussing general CYBHI information, ways to get started, common pitfalls, actions to take in order to move forward with confidence, and more. Before we jump in, I'm going to share a few housekeeping rules and notes just so everyone knows when to collaborate in the chat and when your questions will be answered. The session is being recorded. I'm currently going to share the link to our July webinar resource guide and our TAD Health CYBHI readiness guide in the chat, just in case you see anything that we reference, a link, a resource, something on our website, you'll have access to that through this resource guide. They will also be, those resources will also be shared in a post-webinar email accompanied by the video recording. Feel free to submit your questions at any time in the chat, but we will be holding off until the end to answer the questions for a live Q&A. So I'm going to go ahead and drop the link in right now so everyone has it accessible. That being said, as you all see, we have a lovely panel and fabulous team members here to join us and share all of their knowledge with us today. So I'm going to go ahead and pass our webinar over to our Head of Product Education and Partnerships, Jen Athanasio, who will be moderating today's conversation. Jen is a leading school-based mental health expert with over 15 years of experience, both in direct services and in program development. She has advocated for, developed, and built systems supporting over 40,000 students. In her role as Head of Product Education and Partnerships, she has leveraged her knowledge and expertise to increase access for all students to mental health services statewide. Take it away, Jen.
Thank you so much, Victoria. It is a pleasure to be here, and I'm so happy to be joined by my wonderful colleagues, Matt and Jessica. Starting with Matt, Matt is our Vice President of Growth and Partnerships at TAD Health, where he leads strategic expansion efforts and cultivates key relationships to bring school-based mental health services to more districts nationwide. With a background in business development and a deep commitment to youth wellness, Matt plays a central role in aligning TAD Health's growth with the evolving needs of educators, administrators, and healthcare providers. Lastly, on our panelists, we are joined by Jessica Williams, is our dedicated CYBHI program analyst at TAD Health, where she plays a pivotal role in assisting educators and school staff to connect students with essential mental health resources. Known for her energetic and passionate approach, Jess is committed to pushing boundaries and excelling professionally, ensuring that every user interaction is met with empathy and efficiency. Thank you both, Matt and Jess, for joining us today. Let's get started and dive in and learn more about the multi-payer fee schedule. Matt, I'm going to kick it off to you to start us off. Why was CYBHI created, and what problem is it solving for schools?
Perfect. Thanks, Jen, and thank you, Victoria, as well. And thank you guys all for making some time to be here today and sit in on the chat. Very excited to share more about this important initiative that's really taken the center stage here in California. And I'll get started on the why behind the initiative. And this is something that we always like to do with districts or charters that are just getting started and asking about this initiative and what it can mean for them, and all the way to our existing customers who are getting started with the onboarding. We're presenting this to their team of doers, so all the PPS staff, licensed providers, psychologists, and more. So I always like to share CYBHI, of course, standing for Children and Youth Behavioral Health Initiative. Was really created, and I'm actually going to take this from the website. It's here to make sure that every child in California has access to the mental health and substance support they need, whenever, wherever, and however works best for them. Because every kid deserves to feel supported, understood, and empowered on their journey to well-being. and that's directly on the CYBHI website. And I also want to give a shout out to Jen and Alex Briscoe, our Chief of Healthcare Policy and Medicaid, along with Marcela Rodriguez, our Head of Mental Health Programs, Program and Policy. The three of them did an excellent webinar about a month ago, covering the nitty gritty and all the exciting opportunity with the CYBHI. So for more information, I highly encourage that you go and check that out. I believe it was included in the packet that Victoria shared in the chat on our website there. And I just want to get to the second part of that question there with regard to the problem that it's solving for schools. And traditionally, student support programs operate on what's often referred to as a fiscal financial cliff, meaning that the funding for these programs, it's very, unsustainable or temporary and heavily reliant on grant funding. So because of that, it can bring uncertainty to those teams and most importantly, the providers who are unsure if they'll have a job for the upcoming school year. So this initiative, the CYBHI, allows districts and all LEAs in California to actually submit claims for all of the services that they're already providing on a day-to-day basis. And what that means is that, and we've actually seen this with a few of our customers, they've been able to save jobs, critical jobs of people who are providing essential services to students every single day. So that's a long way of saying that's why this was created and the problem that it's solving. An amazing initiative altogether, that's for sure.
It really is an amazing initiative. And what I'm hearing you say, Matt, is checks are flowing, jobs are being saved, and more students are being served along the way. Jess, can you tell me a little bit about the day-to-day and the practicality of CYBHI and what that means for those interacting with this initiative?
Yeah, thank you, Jen. This is such an important question because when people first hear billing and fee schedule, it can sound intimidating or like it's going to cause extra work layered onto everything else. And here's what we really want everyone to understand. The services themselves are not changing. School-based mental health professionals will keep doing what they are already doing every day, supporting students, meeting with them individually, and documenting those interactions. What is changing is simply how we capture those services. So think of it this way. You're already providing the care. You're already logging notes about what you did, who you did it with, and when. The fee schedule is about making sure all of that gets documented in a way that can unlock reimbursement. Back to Matt's point, when districts start claiming they're literally saving jobs and protecting budgets by tapping into dollars that are already available. I've seen it firsthand. For example, one district that we support was facing layoffs of key mental health staff, and because they began billing for services they're already providing, they were able to avoid those layoffs and even expand support. One myth I would love to bust is the idea that billing means hours of paperwork. And in reality, most of our providers find that it takes just a few minutes to log everything. At the end of the day, this is about sustainability, not administrative burden. And you're not alone in this. Like many districts are just starting out, and it's completely normal to feel intimidated and overwhelmed at first.
To highlight what you just said, CYBHI the doers are continuing to do the work. They're continuing to document whether that's in an EHR or their student information system. And this unlocks billing potential. But with the right partner, that administrative burden to submit your claims should only take a few seconds. Is that what I'm hearing you say, Jess?
Yeah, yeah.
Awesome. Keeping it going, we really want to highlight here those first simple steps that folks can take to get started with this initiative. Matt, can you tell me a little bit more about the learning cohorts, both for how to get into one and what to do if you already applied but haven't started yet?
Yeah, absolutely. And I like, calling them learning cohorts, right? It's always cohort 1, 2, 3, 4, and now 5, which is where we are today. And the reason why we like to stay grounded in the fact that it's a learning cohort is because this is a brand new initiative, statewide, brand new, county by county, district by district, school by school, site by site. And the whole reason behind these cohorts is to really pave the path for those who look to participate and eventually get reimbursed for these claims. And really, the best step that you can take if you're not already in a cohort, if you haven't already applied to cohort 5, apply, apply, apply. It's not as big and scary as it seems. I know there are a lot of moving parts to this initiative. It's again brand new. We've ironed out a process that we've seen successful, but I know there are steps that you have to take to participate. What I really want to share today with regards to this application process, and I've shared this even back in January with cohort 4, there is no obligation after you sign up and register for a cohort. Even today, there are tons of LEAs who haven't done anything to move forward with the initiative. They're in cohorts 1 through 4, but they may not have even started with registration and not even close to submitting claims. But they have the power to decide when they want to begin that. And by applying to cohort 5, you give yourselves the power to do that. Suppose, January rolls around, right? That's quite a bit of time from now until January. The applications are due at the end of this month, so you still have the remainder of the year to build that capacity as an LEA and for your team to be able to start in January. And the last thing I'll say is, we've done this. We've helped dozens of LEAs, districts, and charters sign up for this, and we recently had one of our team members help someone in as little as 6 minutes sign up for the initiative. It doesn't take a lot of time. Even if you do it on your own, we would be happy to do that. We've done that for, of course, all of our partners, and even for districts who weren't signed up with us, just as a good faith support process that we're happy to provide. No obligation. Reach out if that's something we can help you with, because if you are thinking about it at all, you absolutely should apply. So that's really the first step, is getting in a cohort. That is a big one.
I'm going to go a little macro on you, Matt. What's DHCS's plan for this initiative? Is it going away for those that may be hesitant and taking a wait and see approach? Are we going to have cohort 20, or, what's kind of, talk to me about the broader picture of these learning cohorts, and when the state really is wanting everyone to get on board, and why they should start now.
Oh, yeah, that's a really good question that comes up quite a bit in the process of meeting with LEAs that are thinking about this, right? And there's two sides to that. One, how long is this going to be around? And two, maybe we should take a back seat and wait for them to figure it out, right? And cohort 1 started last July. Yes, it was, when we say started, that's when the process began, the learning began. We put a path together with our early partner there, Nevada Joint, Tim Reed and his amazing team. We covered a lot of ground in when you take a look at it in a short amount of time. I know it felt like a whole year there, but we've discovered so much and been through so much together that has brought so much clarity for anyone that's joining this initiative after them. So when it comes to taking a back seat and waiting to see it work, it's already happening. It's already working. Not only are people getting paid through their manual claims, but batch claims are being paid. We've been very, very proud of the fact we've been able to support people with this. And with regard to where it's going and the state's plans, I can't speak on their behalf. I can share what I did here, and I've really respected Autumn Boylan a lot for this at the I want to say it was I don't know, it might have been the Wellness Together conference last year, when there were it was one of the, and it's still very top of mind for people whenever a discussion opens up is CYBHI. And Autumn happened to be, she had a session and she was also sitting in sessions where she was constantly getting up and busting myths and sharing the fact that's where like learning cohort really came out in that time frame, at least for me. Hearing her talk about that and say, we will do cohort 500 if we have to, because they want 100% enrollment. That is the vision. The idea that everyone who is providing support to students needs to participate in this initiative to sustain their programs. It is for all, as Jess said, services that are already happening on a day-to-day. You can now just receive reimbursement for it. So that's why they're looking at this as it should be as close as possible to 100% participation.
Thank you so much for expanding on that. I was in that room and it was pretty powerful watching Autumn just be so proud about what's being created. At the beginning, they were jokingly saying we're building the plane as we're flying it, and we just want to let everyone know the plane is flying, people are on board, and parachutes of money are falling out of the plane.
We got a first class section in this plane now. It's looking good. Yeah.
Drinks are being served in that first class section. Absolutely. Jess, on to you. And tell us a little bit for those that have already applied to Cohort 5, see the vision, want to get their district's reimbursement dollars, and maybe those who have been accepted into Cohort 1 through 4 but haven't started yet. Can you talk to me about what would be your advice for next steps, and what can they be doing now until they decide to start billing?
Yeah, great question. So once you're in a cohort, there are multiple steps you'll need to complete before you can actually start billing. First, you'll need to complete some agreements and forms to get set up with the state. These are important because they establish your participation in CYBHI and allow you to be recognized as an eligible provider. After you complete those forms, you'll be assigned a Carillon representative. If you aren't familiar, Carillon will act as your liaison. They'll be your main point of contact and will guide you through the technical setup to make sure everything is configured correctly. You'll hear terms like SFTP, SPI. Those are secure systems and processes for sharing data and submitting claims. And I won't pretend like it's not a lot. It can feel overwhelming to manage these timelines, meet your implementation goals, and track all of the moving pieces. That's why we collaborate on a project plan with every partner we support. Usually the project plan will lay out what steps need to happen, who's responsible, how long each step will take, and what's already been completed. Which makes it so much easier for people to stay organized and feel confident that they're on track. Also, circling back to what Matt said, we've done this process dozens of times with other LEAs, and we bring all of that experience to help every district get up and running smoothly.
Thank you so much for sharing. You're right. There's acronyms. I come from the world of education, so I can speak in paragraphs of IEPs and SSTs and cost teams, and then learning about this initiative, a whole new slew of acronyms that can be overwhelming. And I really want to hold space that finding the partner to walk you through. I love how you say that project roadmap or that project plan that we develop for each customer, really guiding them through these steps is so important. Staying with you, Jess, because really you're so humble, but you've helped almost every single one of our partners through this onboarding process. What are some avoidable challenges you've seen?
Definitely. There are a couple of pitfalls that come up again and again. The first is time and knowledge. It takes time to get signed up, and sometimes people underestimate that. That's why we encourage our districts to get started as soon as possible. The other pitfall, and honestly the one that causes the most friction, is not identifying the why. We have found that real success comes when leadership is clear about what is CYBHI, who is participating, and most importantly, why they're doing this. When that isn't shared out, it becomes a barrier for people. People feel like billing is just another thing on their plate instead of a way to protect and grow services. On the user side, so the doers, it's also easy to underestimate how much of what you already do counts under the CYBHI fee schedule. And I've touched on this earlier, but everything you're doing during the day can be billed. Counseling sessions, health behavior interventions, case management, all of it. And now there are even more pathways under the CYBHI fee schedule. Community mental health workers and certified wellness coaches can now both bill under CYBHI, which is a huge opportunity to bring in additional funding. And for everyone on the call, I definitely recommend you check out the CYBHI 9 Steps guide that Victoria will share in the chat so you can reference it later.
There's a lot of pitfalls that you just talked about, Jess, and I echo that. Districts finding alignment with this initiative to get unrestricted funds to maintain and support programs and grow them. But if there's not a why for the people putting in these claims, there's a disconnect. So spending some time with leadership at each LEA to figure out, what are you wanting to use these funds for? Is it growing your wellness centers, getting materials and supplies, providing professional development, or even you're generating so much money, you're saving jobs and growing programs. So thank you for sharing about that. Matt, can you tell me a little bit more of what steps a district can take to avoid these pitfalls?
Yeah, and absolutely. And kudos to Jess there for really supporting so many people with this initiative. And just as she's sharing all of those pitfalls, you could say, I can actually picture those conversations and really how we overcame those in partnership and collaboration with each district that went through that. And I guess at a big picture, like focusing on the district, right? The one of the biggest things we hear, I guess two really big things because they're pretty similar, is when they're looking at the CYBHI, they'll say something along the lines of, "Well, who do we have to hire for this?" Right? And that can be a whole slew of positions, whether it's just someone that can take some of the administrative burden off someone, right? And actually go and make sure that they're complying and completing every single step. And then once they're up and running, manage all of that work to, again, make sure that they're compliant in a new realm of submitting claims, right? And making sure that they're documenting properly. There's a lot that goes into that. And so, one, who do we have to hire? And then two, if they aren't in a position to hire someone, they might say something along the lines of, "This is falling on my desk. I'm having to take this on top of everything that I'm doing on a day-to-day basis. I now have to learn this new initiative, SFTP, SPI, ABCD, everything that comes out, right? And it's on them and they're alone. And they're having to not only register, but think about once we're up, how do we go about collecting insurance information? What do we send out to parents? What's best practice for that? How do I introduce this to my staff and get them to buy in to a new initiative, right? So the solution, truthfully, the solution is to really take your time and properly seek out and procure a partner in this initiative, not a vendor, not someone who is looking to add CYBHI into something that they might already be providing you, right? This is brand new. There are so many nuances to this, right? So it's so much more important to find someone who's actually going to show you each step that has already done this, right? To streamline that registration, to work with you on the why conversations that we talked about there with your team, and really support you with that insurance collection piece, right? We have a whole guide on best practices for all of that, really, and so much more. So really finding someone that has that experience and can work alongside you instead of waiting for you to complete that and then submit claims when that time comes. Now, just to go a little further on that, I want to actually talk about like the end users as well and the providers. So that's the district view, but for the actual providers, getting that buy-in, again, starting with that why. And really just to give a couple of ideas that we've really seen work well is identify some of the members of your team who can support you. We call them lighthouse or super users, people that are going to buy into this initiative first to really build out the culture of the program. And whether it's on your own or alongside those super users on your team, build that why. Think about why this is important to your team and your community. There are some districts that we referenced at the start of this conversation who unfortunately were in a position where they were looking at layoffs on their team. the big why for this initiative was to keep everybody's job, right? And that is something that everyone can get behind on a team and make sure that they're documenting and submitting their claims to make sure that someone right next to them is sticking around for the next school year, right? So that's really a one tip there. And the second one is, again, getting ahead on insurance collection. Work closely with your superintendent's office to get a consistent message out to your parents and to the community. When the message comes from the superintendent's office, it's a lot easier for your team to follow up and maintain that same tone with the families that really resonates with them. That will help you really collect a larger volume of consent and insurance information. Lastly, number three is really, again, same as at a district level, but at a provider level, find the right partner. Again, someone that's going to assist with all of those steps and someone that has really built a system that is for the end user, being a school-based mental health worker, right? Someone who is in that workflow, that setting that is not healthcare specific. A system that is easy for them to use will make it a lot easier to document their work, of course, but most importantly, to get them to buy in, where it doesn't feel like this is just another thing on top of their very busy schedules. So those are the three things there, right? So getting staff to buy in, collecting insurance information, and finding the right partner.
And you say this with such authority, Matt, and I believe you when you say, because that's what we've discovered with our partners, is that three-prong approach leads to success. And ultimately, the people that are doing the claim submission, understanding the district's greater purpose, the district understanding the greater purpose of the CYBHI initiative, and then we're all a happy family when that happens. Finding the right partner is just one piece of that puzzle, but having these internal conversations with your champions and your stakeholders only lends itself to that embedded trust. As we talk about the buzzword of culture and climate, I open it up to either one of you. Like, why is having the conversation with the doers, Jess and Matt, so important to continue a positive culture and climate for districts as we're navigating some really dark, uncharted waters right now in public education? Just maybe high level culture climate. Why is it important to bring these doers into the conversation, the buying process, giving them a seat at the table? How does that lend to more claims and revenue generated overall?
Yeah. And I can kind of speak to that. I think the biggest thing is showing them the impact. So like billing under CYBHI expand it protects jobs, expands services, and brings in sustainable funding that would otherwise be left on the table. I think it would be helpful to share examples with your doers. Many districts have used these funds to avoid layoffs and grow mental health capacity, but align them to your specific goals and priorities, like improving student wellness and supporting staff. And then also just, keeping it simple. Like leadership doesn't need to understand every technical step, just that this is an opportunity to claim dollars for care that doers are already providing.
Yeah, I'll add on. I really like again, I really think of it as a macro and a micro view where, again, macro being the whole district, right? As Jess is sharing there. And I'll just add in a little bit on the micro side, thinking again about the end user in particular. And, Jen, you mentioned something there about including them at the table, right? Having a seat in a decision, right? Whether that's to participate in the initiative or to pick the right partner for this initiative. And that's something that we always encourage because we know what it's like for districts to bring this to their team without having that why conversation and introducing a completely new system that no one on their team has seen. Right. So it's very important to include them, as I mentioned, with the super user approach, or even before that, when we're talking about what a system could look like and taking your time to really evaluate the different potential partners out there, right? And giving them an opportunity to see what really fits their day-to-day and simplifies this so that they don't have to go out and learn any of the 52 procedure codes with this initiative or the modifiers or frequency limits, right? That's the most important part of all of this is making sure that the doers, as Jen has coined, all of the providers out there that are already doing so much amazing work and spread very thin, just ensuring that they don't have to add another thing to their plate. And if there is a little bit of an addition, right, it's never going to be perfect, right? If there is an addition, it's very small, right? It's not having to go and learn all these codes and manually do that all, right? It's finding a system that streamlines it as much as possible. So if there is a change, it's very minimal and very fluid.
Absolutely. I love it. I'm going to highlight before we move to Q&A, so everyone in the audience don't leave yet. We still got some questions coming in, but I want to thank my fellow panelists, Jess and Matt, for sharing your knowledge before we head into Q&A. And if there's one thing that I'm taking from both of you, it's the knowledge and the passion that you have for this initiative, but ultimately for the greater mission of really giving our students in K through 12 spaces and beyond, community colleges and universities, access to mental health services that they need where they spend the majority of their time. So I appreciate the both digging into the weeds and a high level overview. So again, thank you everyone. And thank you to both of you for joining me today. Vic, do we have any questions that our panelists can answer?
Yes, we do. And just thank you so much, everyone, Jen, Matt, Jess, for being such fabulous panelists and sharing all valuable information that I'm sure that our attendees will walk away with in mind. So our one of the questions that came through actually is when it comes to getting started with CYBHI, how do we get leadership buy-in?
I can take that there. That's a great question. It comes up quite a bit with the process of actually starting this initiative. Not only do you focus on getting your staff buy-in and really the parent communication, community communications as well. Before you can get to that step is, and we've heard a lot, is bringing this to a cabinet meeting or a board level meeting, right? So what we really recommend uh, folks to do is lead with the facts behind this initiative, right? Normally when this would come up and there could be uncertainty about how it's received, right? Submitting claims to manage care plans, right? Medi-Cal and private insurance plans, right? What does that mean on a day-to-day basis? What does it mean for a district? What does it mean for the families? So bringing these facts of, hey, this is for services that we're already doing on a daily basis, general education and special education students. And really, this is a big bucket, right? To really point out the difference between, because when you hear special education, it's like, hey, well, we're already doing Medi-Cal billing for LEA Bob, right? So pointing out the difference between the two initiatives and fee schedules, right? So you have, again, what it means for the district, more providers, more eligible students, and lastly, for the families, there is no deductible or copay with any of this, right? And there's a whole bunch of frequently asked questions that we really collaborate with these district leaders to get ahead of, so that when you bring this to your leadership team, be it cabinet or board, they can really take a look at it and say, okay, these are for services that we're already providing. We're now going to get reimbursed for them. There is no implication on the family's insurance plans, and it's unrestricted funding that will help us sustain programs. It is by all means a win-win-win solution that is a no-brainer for any district providing these services. So that's a really good way to get ahead of those conversations with leadership. Jen or Jess, if there's anything you guys want to add.
Knocked it out of the park, Matt.
Awesome. Thank you, Matt. We do have another one that came in. It is, what is PAVE and how do we register?
Yeah, and I can speak to that. For those who don't know, PAVE stands for Provider Application and Validation for Enrollment. It's California's online system for enrolling as a Medi-Cal provider. All districts participating in CYBHI need at least one practitioner enrolled in PAVE. That's what enables them to submit claims. And just like a high level overview of how to register. So you will create an account in the PAVE portal. You'll complete the application for your organization and any licensed providers you'll bill under. And then you will submit the required documentation to verify your credentials. So just a few simple steps, pretty easy to apply. And then we also have a guide that we're happy to share with you guys as well to help support you in your application process.
Awesome. Thank you, Jess. Let me see if we have another question that came through. Yes. Okay, this one's a good one, actually. So how can non-traditional staff like security participate in CYBHI?
That's got to be a Jen response there. Jen, I hope you don't mind as the moderator taking that one, but that's right up your
No,
alley.
that is right up my alley. I think there's a running joke within TAD Health of throw a role type or service at Jen and see if she can fit it into the fee schedule. So to answer this question, Victoria, our just being on school campuses, I was at a high school for 8 years as a school psychologist. I relied so heavily on our campus security, campus supervisors. They go by many names. They're beloved people trusted by the students to hold the secrets of what's going on and the relationship building. They break up the fights. The fights are broken up because they're looking at a trusted adult on campus. This trusted adult holds space and compassion and empathy for what our youth are going through right now. I see that perfectly aligned with a certified wellness coach certificate. So really exploring those warm, kind individuals that you have on staff that are supporting student mental health just by existing, walking around halls, saying hi to students, being there before school and after school, cheering them on at their games. That role type would fit perfectly as a certified wellness coach. To that point, you may have questions, well, what can they bill for on the fee schedule? Because there's role types that DHCS has identified. And so again, there's 3 billing codes that certified wellness coaches can bill under, which is the initial meeting of a student, the follow-up with the student, and then any groups. So I encourage you use chat if you have any questions or wonderings about what can be billed. I'd happy to rapid fire answer those for you. If you're like, does an SEL lesson in the classroom count on the fee schedule and for where? Just drop it in the chat and I will accept the challenge and answer those for you. Keep it going, Vic.
Yes, we have quite some that came through actually. Our next one reads, can schools bill for mental health services provided to the school by a mental health professional that is not a school employee, but rather is contracted by the school to provide services to the students? So essentially, the school pays this outside counselor to see its students, and then can the school seek reimbursement for that money they paid to have the outside counselors engage in a counseling session with a student?
That's a
Yeah.
good question. So I think, Jen,
Yes.
that's a good extension to your
Yeah.
response.
Yes, and Jess has terminology that's slipping my mind, so I may put her on the spot for this too. But you may be, as your question states, be partnering with someone if you can't provide that service through district or school employees to do this. And if you are paying for them, you, as the LEA, can get reimbursement for the services delivered to students. If that provider was provided to you, the LEA, through grant funding, and you are at no cost to you, then you as the LEA cannot get reimbursable dollars. But just looping back, you've paid for this provider, they're providing services on campus to your student, they can be, you as the LEA can get reimbursement dollars. Anything to add on that, Jess? There's like a terminology, but I think maybe high level that answers the question.
Yeah, no, that's correct.
Okay, perfect.
Awesome. Our next question is, what does long-term sustainability with CYBHI look like?
Yeah, I'm happy to speak on that. So I believe that long-term sustainability means moving away from relying on grants and one-time funding to cover essential mental health services. So by billing Medi-Cal through CYBHI, you are generating ongoing revenue for services you're already providing. You can plan budgets confidently, knowing reimbursements will replenish funds. And you create capacity to grow programs, hire more staff, and expand access. Districts that get this in place now are positioning themselves to be proactive so that when other funding sources shift or end, their programs stay strong. And TAD Health's goal is to help you build a system that isn't just compliant, but truly sustainable for years to come.
That was so
Awesome.
well said. I'm like, can
Yeah,
I give
that's
kudos
nice.
to a panelist? That was amazing.
Yes, that was great, honestly. Let me double check to make sure we don't have any last questions before we move on. Let's see. Does anyone else have any questions they'd like to submit to us through the Q&A or in the chat? Please let us know. Okay. I don't see any that came through. So we will be moving on. Thank you, everyone, for your questions. They fostered such beautiful discussion. They were very insightful. And thank you to our panelists and moderator, Jen, for jumping in and sharing all of your knowledge and information. Just to wrap things up, thank you all for joining. We'll be sending out the recording, our CYBHI readiness guide, and a link to schedule a demo if you'd like to learn more. Don't miss the Cohort 5 CYBHI July 31st deadline. TAD Health is here to help. We provide free, no strings attached application support. And with us, you can possibly submit your CYBHI application in 7 minutes or less. Be sure to register for our upcoming sessions that will be posted on LinkedIn soon. You'll probably be getting an email from us about our next one. And again, wrapping it up, a huge thank you to Jen for moderating and to Matt and Jessica for sharing their insights as panelists. We're so grateful for your time and expertise. And again, thank you so much to the attendees for joining. We look forward to circling back and continuing the conversation. So have a great day, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.